Chair Klobuchar, Ranking Member Fisher, and committee members, my name is Janai Nelson. I'm the President and Director Counsel of LDF, formerly the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. Thank you for the opportunity to testify about the state of voting rights for Black Americans, both on the ground and in the courts, and about the urgent need for congressional action to protect and secure the fundamental freedom to vote. My testimony is informed by LDF's extensive experience over 80 years protecting and advancing voting rights for Black Americans since our founding by Thurgood Marshall in 1940. My testimony is also informed by the on-the-ground election protection work we must do every election cycle in order to ensure that Black voters can cast a ballot and have it counted. Last week was the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday, when patriots like John Lewis were brutally beaten in Selma, Alabama for simply demanding the right to vote. Their courage and action led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and the true start of our multiracial democracy. We need Congress to follow in the steps of those foot soldiers with courage and action today. It's been more than a decade since the Shelby County decision where the Supreme Court gutted the heart of the Voting Rights Act, and Congress still has yet to act. But in that decade of congressional inaction, states that were previously subject to preclearance have aggressively and systematically trampled on voting rights, especially those of Black citizens. Alabama, North Carolina, Texas, and other states with histories of discrimination advanced harsh voting restrictions within days, even hours, of the Shelby decision, and a wave of voter suppression laws followed across the country. More recently, the big lie and other myths to undermine faith in our elections have stoked a backlash against voters of color. Some states have targeted the precise pathways to the polls that Black voters have used in recent years, whether it's eliminating or limiting drop boxes in Florida, early voting in Georgia, or vote by mail in Texas. Artificial intelligence is being weaponized to advance frivolous mass challenges to registered voters in Georgia, and this is gaining traction through programs like Eagle AI as a nationwide strategy to distort the electorate. The increased use of AI also threatens to turbocharge disinformation campaigns historically targeted at Black voters. Despite decades of progress towards becoming a more inclusive, just, and equal democracy, we're swiftly moving in the opposite direction. In Alabama, Black and white voter turnout was nearly equal in 2012. But a decade after Shelby, Black voter turnout now lags nearly 8 percentage points behind white voter turnout. Georgia had the largest racial disparity in turnout in 2022 than at any point in the last decade. And the 2020 redistricting cycle was rife with discrimination. Of the 9 states previously subject to preclearance, 6, 2/3, have faced lawsuits challenging their maps for racial discrimination. Federal courts have already found in 3 of our recent cases, Alabama, South Carolina, and Louisiana, that the states created racially discriminatory districting maps, congressional maps. So let's be clear. While LDF is fighting in the courts along with our other civil rights sisters and brothers, we cannot litigate our way out of this problem. But Congress can legislate. Black Americans are headed into November with a shredded shield. As a result of the Shelby County and Brnovich versus DNC decisions, the Voting Rights Act is a shadow of its former self, precisely when we need strong voting rights protections in the face of rising authoritarianism. Destructive court decisions combined with inaction by Congress have stripped them away. The state of voting rights for Black Americans is tenuous, and that is an urgent crisis for our democracy and for this Congress. The President issued a powerful call to action in last week's State of the Union address, and he named the specific solutions that were reintroduced in both chambers, the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, both of which we call on Congress to pass. The right to vote preserves every right that we hold dear. It is an effective, nonviolent means of expressing our will. Protecting the right to vote should not be a matter of partisan politics. It is the duty of all elected officials to honor and protect the sacred act that has enabled them to serve. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.